Nick, hello to you. Could you give an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Nick. I'm 29. Very quickly going on 30 here in the next couple months.
Hmm.
Basically, I'm out here to better myself in any way possible. That's essentially what I'm doing right now. I own two businesses. I'm working nonstop. I do nothing else. That's what I do day in, day out, from when I get up to when I go to bed.
Okay. First thing I actually want to ask is you
Sure.
have an interesting background or setup. So are you a musician or is that something done in your past? Is it something you do now?
Past, present, still something that I do.
Hmm. Is that one of
It's
the businesses?
yes, yeah.
I see. Okay. And okay, so we'll be interested to hear a bit about that as well. What's the
Mhm.
second business? If one is music, what's the other one?
So my first and primary business here, the one that pays all my bills
Hmm.
and everything else, is I own a pool service company. That is, we open them, close them. I go out maintenance them every day. It mostly started with like mechanical work, like actually fixing the things that make them work. The cleaning and everything else came after, but yeah, that's
Cool.
primarily what I do.
Okay. And what made you get into music?
Music I've done for a long time. I've done that since I was like 11 or 12 years old. My dad was a musician. His dad was a musician. It just kind of, you know, just kind of comes together.
So, is it something that's fulfilling for you to do, or are
Yeah,
there other reasons for doing it?
it is fulfilling. It's something like, it's kind of hard to explain. Are you a musician? Have you ever played anything?
No, I've played piano and guitar, but
Okay.
to a medium level. Nothing like too
Okay.
advanced.
So, I mean, I'm no expert by any means. You know what I mean? Nobody ever masters it, but it's like, once you've reached a certain point and you're like proficient in it, it's something that's very hard to just kind of let go of. You don't really want to let go of it, but at some point when you reach that state of flow, when you're in it, there's nothing else like it. You can't kind of go back from doing that, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I remember when I don't play piano anymore, but when I used to play it, I
Yeah.
remember unconsciously kind of rocking back and forth as I'm playing.
Yeah.
And that was just again kind of unconscious, just completely immersed into it. So that
Yeah,
was
there's
interesting.
moments you just kind of like leave. You're not really totally there. Your mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like in your hand, especially piano. That's I highly respect that. I cannot gather piano for the life of me. I understand what it is. I know how each hand is working, but I cannot play it.
Damn. So what are your main instruments?
So I grew up playing just regular electric guitar, six
Mhm.
strings. Now for this project that I'm involved in, it's a bass, six string bass. Big heavy piece of wood. It's mostly that and managerial for that project.
Do you do any tours?
I'm sorry.
Tours? Tours?
Tours? No, it's not really designed that way. The way that we do things, because we're all still working full time. I'm managing, like I said, another company at the same time. My brother also manages another company at the same time. So we don't really have the time to kind of walk away from it. But I'm sure if the opportunity came up and everything made sense to do it, we'd probably figure it out.
Okay, fair enough. And
Yeah.
what got you into the real world? How come you decided to join?
So over the past few years, I was kind of in a position where I just kind of noticed things weren't really, what do you say? It's kind of like the veil kind of parts a little bit.
Yeah.
You notice something's wrong, like something just doesn't feel right. There's this sort of fog, like this aimlessness where you just feel like almost a sense of helplessness, but like there's an answer out there. You just don't know what it is. I was kind of in that position. Like anytime I did anything, if I went to play like a video game with friends, something just felt wrong. Like I shouldn't be doing this. Something just stupid like that. Even just wasting time. So effectively what happened is I started going down my own trail of, like pushing for more income at work, things like that, where I was starting to delete my own social media just because I knew that was wrong. I knew something was off. And occasionally, like eventually I started coming across, just random like Tate clips, Tate shorts, all that kind of stuff. I heard the name a bunch of times, but I never saw any of it because I kind of removed any way for that information to get to me, anything that wasn't relevant to what I was currently doing. Eventually I came across these clips, and some of them were funny, and then other ones were just, other ones were informative, but then there were these other ones that were very, I guess some people would call them like red-pilled, but that's not really what I would call it. It was something that kind of scratched like a primal itch. It was very much like, I imagine you're somewhat familiar with like David Goggins. Like, yep. So it was something similar to that. It was like, what are you doing? Get up, just get it together. There is no complex plan. Get up, put your pants on, go out, do what you got to do. And that kind of resonated with me a lot. And eventually I hate to say it because it took me way longer than it should have. It took me anywhere from 6 months to probably like a year before I actually signed up for it. I just kind of watched as many of these free clips as I could get, whether they were full length interviews or I watched everything. And then one day, I think it was one of those clips, just kind of it hit me right. It was the right time, where he had said something along the lines that Andrew had said something along the lines of, you spend $50 every day. You spend it on garbage. If I skip lunch for 3 days, I can pay for a month of that. And it just kind of hit me right. And I figured, all right, the information in there, if it's worth $50, the return, the ROI on that is ridiculous. If it's not, I lost $50. I've blown more than $50 on, on, yep. on worse risks. You know what I mean? So I threw it at it immediately, like day one, day two, it hit me. And I went, oh yeah, I wasted way too long screwing around with this. I should have just got it to begin with. Ooh, sorry. I don't,
No, if you want to drink, no problem. Sponsored by Red Bull. All right. So what campuses did you get into when you joined?
The first one I joined into was Business Mastery, but I entered all of them. I'm in all of them. I kind of hop around between them, but I try to finish at least one full course in like whatever I'm involved in. I try to finish at least one full course before I bounce around to something else, because it's all relevant to me in some way or another. It's all stuff I want to know, all of it.
So how were the lessons relevant to your pool service business?
Pretty much every aspect of it, down to sales, social skills. The financial wizardry course is probably my favorite one out of the entire Business Mastery. The way Arno breaks down all of those Tate clips are, it's perfect. Makes sense. Everything down to, speed, money in, stop wasting time on, stupid little things that just don't matter. Mm-hmm. It all helps, especially the social skills and understanding that, essentially, I don't know how much of this you want me to actually,
fully. Go into it fully.
Okay, cool. So it's understanding that, your job as a salesman in business in general is to pair the customer with what it is that they need, not just sell them something, which in my industry, nobody is doing that right. I can tell you right now, nobody's doing that correctly. I can't tell you how many phone calls I get a day where it's like, hey, can you come check this out and give me a quote? And I'll show up and say, okay, you just need this and you're good. And you don't even have to replace it. I can just fix it. And it's going to be X amount of dollars. And they'll say, oh, really? I appreciate that, because the last 3 guys I had here said I had to replace everything. And it's, you know what I mean? It's terrible, but it's great at the same time. I mean, it's great for me, but it's terrible that is the case. So it was very helpful in that regard. Not that I felt right doing that anyway. I never liked working like that. But sometimes when you're under somebody else's banner, you need to know what you do. You know, you need to do what you're kind of told to do.
Yeah. Okay. How long ago did you start the pool service?
On my own, well, like a fool, I started at the fall or autumn season of last year. So that would be about September of 2022.
Okay.
So
How was it at the time when you had just started? Were you struggling with it, or were you doing decently?
So
What was your reason for starting as well?
okay, so I had started because I was sort of in a how are you with language on here? I'm not going to drop like
No, just say anything. This is
cool.
no censorship, nothing.
I was sort of in like a pissing match with the owner of the company that I worked with, and it was like quiet back and forth. You'd do things like I'd show up like 20 minutes late just to irritate him, and he would punish me by having me stay like 3 extra hours late, things like that. And it got to a point where I was just sick of it. So I left and decided I was going to go start my own thing because I've been doing it for a few years now, and I do it well. I work well with people. Now, the thing that sucked about it is I started at the time that everybody closes their pools in this area. So what you're doing is you're leading into the winter season where there is no work. And I kind of just, like, that was a terrible time for me to do that. But I got through the winter, whether it be from odd jobs here and there. I'm pretty handy just elsewhere. I was doing things like framing jobs with other people that I knew and just kind of getting through it. I had a few of my own customers that I picked up through the years too, like a few of my own personal customers. I didn't go into it completely dry. This is great where the real world would have helped if I had it earlier. One of the first lessons you learn is don't get legal before you go into something like that. And I did the total opposite. I went in full legal, the entire 9, filled out all the paperwork, got the bank account, did the logo, the whole 9. Luckily it didn't sink me, but I could very well see where that would have been a terrible investment. I could have saved like $2,000 probably if I did it the other way around. But yeah, overall it worked out. By the time the spring hit, I was ready to go. I was itching to go. It made me hungrier for it because, I already saw what the back end of that would have looked like if I wasn't, I had no choice but to succeed because I put myself in that position. And it worked out well for me in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. And then you're saying business mastery helped. What any other lessons that you can relate to helping the pool service?
So social skills are a big one. Trying to think of what else offhand. It's definitely social skills though, because especially in this industry.
Fair enough. Yeah. There's
like how I said. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Like how I said, a lot of people are just untrusting of pool service people in general, because a lot of them are just guys that like you don't really need certifications to do a lot of this stuff. For me to come out and vacuum your pool, I could be the guy up the road from you. Like you don't need anything special to do that. You don't need a license, nothing. I mean, I'm certified in like certain repairs and things like that other people can't do, but this industry is very well known for people just kind of showing up, just trying to screw you, just trying to get your money and leave. It is not uncommon for people to take your money, bail, and just not answer the phone. It happens all the time. And it makes people really nervous. So you need to be able to come in confidently, especially if I come walking into, I'm tattooed from one arm to the other. It kind of makes people a little nervous off the bat. But if you can talk to them correctly and, you have the proper body language, you're kind of just open. You're letting people know you're not nervous. You're not in there to screw them. You're not there to take their stuff. I like to relay a lot of points of like, I'm a big believer in consistent work. I would rather come here and do this over and over and over than, just take one check from you and bail, because that's just not sustainable. Yeah. These companies pop up and disappear every year because of that. Mm-hmm. I can imagine that's probably highly stressful too. I'm not trying to deal with that.
Okay. Since you mentioned tattoos, what do your tattoos mean?
Well, pretty much this whole arm from one end to the other. It's kind of almost relevant to the music company that I have. This whole one arm to the other is from an old Nintendo game. It's, Legend of Zelda Ocarina for the N64. It's just a bunch of artwork that's just been kind of reimagined. I found a guy, I really liked his artwork. He just kind of made it more realistic, more almost like horror themed, and everything from shoulder to wrist is that. This side is really just like an organic style Kraken octopus thing, and then I have two on my chest too, but they're sort of game related in a way. They have meanings and all that, but one is essentially they call it the mark of shame. It basically just means you've failed at some point or another, and it was like some massive failure. There was no one failure that made me want it, but I just kind of did it. And the other one is essentially it's Doom's Mark of the Slayer. It just means you are absolutely unstoppable, and there's nothing is going to put you down to a point where you're not going to get back up. So it's almost like what do they call it? Like an unstoppable force, immovable object, kind of both at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah. They just kind of look cool is ultimately why I did it to begin with. Cool. I kind of found the meaning after to justify it.
Oh, okay. I've had some people say that before, so they actually get the tattoo first and then find meaning for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, going back to before,
sure.
What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced when you were implementing the lessons from the real watch?
It's like any other skill that you're trying to improve upon. You're gonna screw up a few times. You are gonna mess up. I've messed up where I've picked up clients where I wasn't picking up deposits. I wasn't picking up anything. I would show up, start doing the work, and I was getting so swamped so fast I couldn't keep up on invoices. And then I would have people that would kind of like get pissed off because I couldn't keep up on the work, and then they just wouldn't pay the invoice. Like that happened to me. I mean, it happened to me once where it was like substantial enough. And I actually, what is it, September now? That happened back in like May. I just got him to pay most of the invoice like a week ago. And it put me in a position where I go, okay, I'm not doing that again. You know what I mean? These are lessons where had I learned some of this first, I probably wouldn't have done that. And now, I'm in a position now where I understand, hey, we're toward the end of the season. I kind of just have to ride out the way I've been doing this. Luckily, I have a lot of good customers, a lot of good clients where I don't really have to worry about that with them because I didn't really start it off with them like that. But I know for next year exactly how I'm going to do this as soon as I start. I already know where to improve. That and keeping up on like certain supplies, like certain chemicals. If you're, managing a pool, you need to keep it clean. That was a challenge. Manpower. I went into this thinking, okay, I'm going to do like 10, 15 of these a week by myself. I'll be all right. I didn't consider things like the other company that I have requires that I kind of leave the state once a month. Who's going to take care of that while I'm not there? It needs to be weekly. Or other things like, what if I start getting service calls when I'm booked solid doing this? I'm missing out on, on income doing that. Just one, I didn't account for all the hiccups that could have gone wrong and screwed me up for the rest of the week. Now, like one of the things I sold myself on, that I sold my services on, was regardless of what day a week it is, like if your day is Thursday and I come to your house every Thursday, it's going to be every Thursday. At no point am I going to turn around and say, hey, it rained, or I have a cold. I'm sorry, I have to put you off for a day. Like we don't do that. It is Thursday. I don't care what the weather's like, you know, I don't care if it's fire and brimstone. I'm coming to your house. And I've kind of stuck true to that pretty much the entire year, which has been great. I only had one instance where I had to put somebody off for one day. And I think compared to everybody else around here, I think that's a damn good record. That too, not identifying, or what do they call it? Like when, one of the lessons that I think Arno brings up is don't ever compete with somebody on price. That should not be your unique selling point, is price. You know, okay, they did it for $50. I can do it for 30. Don't do that. And I learned that the hard way too. Completely learned that. At some point you're out there working for free, and you don't want to be doing that.
Right. So since we're on the topic of pricing,
Sure.
how much have you made then that you can relate to the real watch?
Since I started the real world, I've made about $50,000, and probably it was about 3 months ago. So so essentially in the last 3 months from the real world, I've made about $50,000.
Very solid. Yep. Okay, so let's go into not competing on pricing a bit more. So what, you restructured your offer? What's your offer now then?
So my offer is more about targeting specifically, since I've been in the industry long enough now where I've heard a lot of complaints, even working for somebody else, I got to hear directly what their complaints were about that company. And what I also do is I subcontract for other bigger companies since I'm smaller and I can do that. So I get to go out under their flag wearing their t-shirt. I'm not even supposed to tell them that I'm my own company, and I get to listen to them complain about these other companies and what they don't like about them. So I hear exactly what they want. Things like a lot of these companies, when they would open your pool, they would include an option to clean the pool as well, like as soon as it's open, rather than charge you to come back 2 weeks later and clean it. It's a waste of time. These people don't like that. They're pissed. They want to open the pool. They want to swim. Now, in my case, I know that nobody's doing it anymore. Open opportunity. I can show up, say, okay, well, for an extra 100, I'll pop the cover open. We'll vacuum the whole thing. Like, yeah, it might cost a little more for you, but nobody else is even offering the option. So they're going to say yes. I haven't had anybody say no yet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just stuff like that. Just offering a service that nobody else will do, or, a lot of it is knowledge. I tend to ramble quite a bit, so I tend to drop a lot of knowledge on people. It tends to overwhelm them sometimes, and they go, all right, you clearly know what you're doing. Just do it.
Like a VSL, but in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How different would you say the material and learning resources are in the real world compared to what you could have found out on the internet?
It's a lot different. I've looked for a long time. I like to think I'm pretty fluent when it comes to like search engines, researching in general. I'll do it for hours, days at a time. What I like that's different about this is that everybody that tells you how to do something has done it and succeeded at it. Like they're all people that know what they're talking about, and they have the credentials to back it up. And what's also great is the way that these courses are structured for the most part. Like, you have to do this one in order to get to this section. You have to kind of prove that you've understood it to an extent where you can get to the next section. Like, certain sections unlock after you've done other things. Which I think is the way to do it overall is pretty smart. Do you have other courses for other things, or, like if I go look up an article on how to make money doing this, I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's ever done it. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. I would have to go experiment with it. Like, you know what I mean? These mm-hmm. professors already know what they're talking about. You can search them up. You can see what they've done.
Right. Okay. And since you're on this trajectory, where do you see your life heading in the short term, medium term, and long term?
Well, in the short term, it's already improved. Like, I'm already, I'm not looking at my bank account every week going, okay, cool, I'm just barely going to skate by again. We're good for this week. No, now it's sometimes I'm in a position where I can just kind of say, cool, yeah, we need that. Just get it. Here's my card. Just go get it. Like, I know we're all right. And that kind of relaxes you, it relaxes you out. Like, I've even been told this from other people where I'm a lot more relaxed now. Because, if you looked back like a year, maybe 2 years ago, little things would just set me off. Like, I was just stressed out constantly by trying to just constantly keep up. Long term, I mean, I have a lot of things I would like to do, and I think it's about making the right decisions in the right order at the right time. So when it comes to that, the way I see it is kind of like, rather than thinking I'm going to do this in a year, this in 3 years, this in 5 years, this is exactly how my life's going to go. The way I see it now is more like, you ever skip rocks? Like on a lake, on a pond?
Yeah. I lived by the sea, so I used to love them. But
there you go. Me too. Actually, I'm on the East Coast of the U.S. It's a lot like that. Like, I'm not planning how many skips I want that rock to do. I just know I'm going to throw it as hard as I can, the right way, and we'll go from there. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you can do it correctly and you just go at it as hard as you can, you get as far as you can. That's kind of my goal right now.
Okay, completely fair. I'm wondering as well, since you said you've been following Tate for a while before even joining the Real Watch, what kind of an impact has he had on you, if any?
I would say he woke up, and as I say woke up because, like, it was familiar, this drive. Like, it just kind of gets you fired up. A lot of people will call it negative reinforcement. I don't see it that way. Where it's, it's not coddling. It's the opposite. And I love that. That's how I grew up as like a little kid, and I forgot about it. You know what I mean? You hit a certain age and you just kind of carry off on your own. You kind of become who your friends are and all that stuff. But, when I was like young, that's kind of how my dad was. It was very much like, stop being a pansy. You're not in a fantasy world. Your job as a man is to do this. Like, this is what you need to do. Just get up and do it. There's no other way to do it. And I kind of lost that for a long time. And then I started catching these videos, and it was like one at a time they started hitting me. And then one day I just kind of realized it. I went, oh, wow. Okay, this is like, now I wake up, I'm fired up. As soon as I get up in the morning, I'm like shotgunning like a Red Bull, and that's it. I'm up, push-ups, fired up, ready to go. Everybody finds that stuff to be kind of intense, maybe intimidating. I don't know. Everybody's got their own thing to say about it, but I like it. I think it's a great motivator to get you to do what you need to do. And just a lot of the stuff he talks about in general, like I've had, I don't want to say arguments, heated debates. I don't know, maybe even with friends where they were talking about, he's a misogynist, this thing with women, whatever. And I said, you don't even know what you're talking about. You haven't listened to any of it. You have no concept. Like which part do you disagree with about, his views on women, the part that they need to be protected and, that kind of part, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. It's one of those arguments where you don't even bother. You just kind of walk away, keep doing your own thing. I think overall it's all just a positive impact, which he's said multiple times is what he's out to do. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any sort of fault in the logic. He says he's going to do something. So far, I see that he's doing it. So, I'm 100% about that.
Right.
A lot of people can't say the same.
Mm-hmm. And how has your average day changed since joining the Real Watch? How different is it now compared to before?
A lot more productive. It feels a lot better. Because before, let's say, even after I had started my own company, it was still somewhat aimless. Like a lot of the skills Arno talks about, whether they be business skills, social skills, they were things I was kind of not fully consciously aware of that I kind of noticed I was already doing. The way I like to put it is I was kind of wandering in the right direction already. But the real world is sort of like somebody just handing you a map, and it's like, yeah, you already knew where you were going, but this is the fastest way to get there. This is what you've been doing. This is what this is called. This is how you get better at it. It's just a way to hone specific skills. So the way that helped me was, rule number 1, speed. It helped me find exactly what I was doing, what I was weak at, how to improve upon that. Especially skills like talking to people. That helped a lot. Sometimes I would fumble my way through a conversation and just be stupid lucky enough to get what I was trying to get out of it. But it helps overall. It helped a lot, as in most, in most ways.
Good. That's great to hear. And I think we're good to wrap up then.
Okay.
Can't think of any more questions. Actually, one more.
Sure.
So, even at the start, you said all you spend your time on is these 2 businesses. Mm-hmm. So, what would you say to people who call that excessive, working so much?
I feel when I was working for somebody else and I wasn't doing it for myself, 8 hours felt like an eternity. I'll do 12, 14, 16 for myself. It doesn't feel like work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Once you start seeing things like, when you start seeing your phone go off, you first wake up first thing in the morning and you see that 3 invoices have hit your account. There's nothing like that. You're up, you're like, oh wow, okay, I just paid my rent today and all I did was, sleep. Like you're good to go. Nothing fires you up like that. Everything else on top of that is extra. You know what I mean? And you can use that however you want to use it, which is different.
Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, now happy to wrap up. That was really enjoyed your answers. So thank you, Nick. And now for people who are unsure about joining the real world, because maybe they think it could be a scam for the $50, what advice would you have to them?
I want you to open up your bank account, your bank statements. I want you to look at them. How much money did you just waste this month? Listen, I waited. Stop screwing around. Just do it. Like you have Netflix. How many times did you go to how many times did you do takeout this week? Just suck it up. Just skip a couple times. Try it. If you don't like it, you're out $50. You've lost nothing. You're going to continue to waste money anyway. You don't have to be as intense as I was about it. I'll skip lunch every day just to do it, but it's not even necessary for this. You know what I mean? Don't waste your time. Just do it. Just get it, look at it. I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's not, I've gotten scammed on things that, like I said, looked more risky than this, and I've done it. So it just makes sense.
Very solid. And for people who want to find out more about you or contact you, where can they do so?
So we didn't go over it too much, but the music company that's relevant, that one is it's superthrashbros.com.
I wonder where that name came from.
Yeah. If you look at it, it'll make a lot of sense. It'll come together. The other one I'm still working on. The pool company website is actually being made up right now as we speak. That's superthrashbros.com. We're all over YouTube. We're all over everywhere. Everywhere you look, we're going to be there.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll add links to all of that in the description of the video. And yeah, Nick, let's do a follow-up in about 3 or 4 months. Because considering how much progress you've made in just 3 months, I look forward to documenting how far you'll get in another, again, 3 or 4 months. So yeah, looking forward to that. And until then, I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to that too. Hopefully we can, we can have more of a back and forth conversation instead of me just rambling for a half hour. I'd like to see more about what you're about and all that too. So I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. A bit more at least. Because I do like just asking questions and listening.
Yeah.
I usually don't speak as much, but possible to do. Sure.